government's NEP, the National Education Policy, has highlighted five problems that it thought that was wrong with the government school system. So what they said, what is the NEP's diagnosis of the problem? It's fivefold. One is they say that there is lack of early childhood care and education. So there are like 85%, they have highlighted this statistic that 85% of a child's cumulative brain development occurs prior to the age of 6. But that is the age where most of the students, at least in government schools, start their schooling. So, I mean, in private schools, we know that parents start sending their kids at 3 or 4 years of age. But in rural areas, what happens is they go to anganwadis from age 3 to say 5 or 6, and then they enter the government school system. So government has said that by the time they are coming to the school, they are joining the school, most of the cumulative their brain development has already happened. So those are 3 4 years are the lowest years of the child. So the government should focus on those years. Otherwise, what happens is they join late, and their learning outcomes are severely affected compared to other students. So that is the focus area that the government has highlighted, that we will not only get these students early in the school system, but also develop special curriculum that will focus on their age and what they should learn in those 3 4 years. Now, this second problem they have said is that curriculum in initial grades fails in imparting foundational literacy and numeracy in kids. So, one of the ASER reports that usually does research on learning outcomes of the students, it found that there was a 20% gap between students who were in class 5, but they could not read class 3 text. And there was a 20% gap in learning outcomes in their ability to read between students who were in government schools versus students who were in private schools. So private school students were doing much better. And this is the data from rural areas. So it's not comparing students who are in rural areas versus students in urban areas. It's basically comparing a child who is studying in a private school versus a child who is studying in government school and hails from the same village or same rural cluster of villages. Okay, so this is the second problem they have identified, that the curriculum, that the syllabus in government schools does not focus on imparting foundational literacy and numeracy. Now, what is foundational literacy and numeracy? It's basically ability to read text and do simple maths. Sum, minus, not even multiplication. I think that is for higher level, class 5th, class 7th, class 8th. But for class 3rd, it's basically just a sum and basic reading of the text in their mother tongue. So this is second problem they have identified. Third, they have said is that lack of teachers who are specially trained for early childhood care and education. This is the problem. I mean, of course, if there is no ECCE as such already in the system, there are lack of teachers, of course. Another problem is that higher pupil-teacher ratio. So they say that there are less number of teachers and the most number of students. So that needs to be focused. If people remember, under Right to Education Act that came in 2009, the government had identified a special ratio that there should be in private schools, there should be this many teachers for this many students. Okay. So the government accepts that even in government schools, this is a major problem. There are less number of teachers, but more students. We will come to that later, whether that is true or not. But this is, I'm reading out what the government has identified as the problem. Fourth problem they have identified is poor health and lack of good quality nutrition and insufficient quantity leading to poor learning outcomes. So basically, the problem is that most of these students who are studying in government schools hail from rural areas, villages, and disadvantaged backgrounds, and they don't get the food, proper nutrition. Uh, so that is also affecting their learning ability. Fifth problem, and the final problem they have identified, is poor access to these schools and dropouts due to lack of infrastructure. So there are not enough toilets, not enough facilities in schools to keep the children there. So these are the five problems that they have identified. We will see whether they are true or not.